Hello, guys. Kobe here with Akaprove. We have another episode with Umar here. He's with Microsoft, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Uma. I am currently a software engineer at Microsoft. I work on Substrate. So Substrate is the data layer for Office 365. Any of the Office products, Outlook, Teams, Excel. Most of the data for the application lives in Substrate, and I work on the APIs, or at least one of the APIs that handle all of that.
Nice.
So my teams keep crashing. When we report that, do you get those?
It depends on how
support cases?
severe
Okay.
it is, but it typically goes through links of,
Tiers?
Tiers
Tier
of like
one, tier
support,
two,
tier two, and
yeah.
all that. And then by the time it gets to us, then it means
It's
something
really bad.
really, really wrong.
Yeah. I
So
guess.
so you're like the last resort.
Last
Yeah,
result, exactly.
yeah.
We build the service that powers some of the experiences for teams. So if there's like an outage and something specific isn't working, it typically goes through that tier and then it then gets to us. Yeah.
Sounds nice. So, Umar, how did you how did you come into this position? Were you introduced to Microsoft? Just tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. So I started off in aerospace engineering actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when I was
That's crazy.
That's big, bro.
So when I was in school, I went to school at Iowa State.
Okay.
My first 3 years, I was doing aerospace engineering, and I've always been curious about how specific things work. About how, like, I remember, I don't know if the audience can see, but the second I stepped in here, the question I asked was, "How is all of this working?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
I've always had that curiosity about how things work, and so for initially it was planes, right? How does something that big go
Stay
up
in the
in
air.
one piece and then come down in one piece, right?
Right.
What's happening in the engines, what's happening in the controls. And so after like 3 years as an aerospace engineering major, I took some aerodynamics courses and I kind of understood how it worked. And that curiosity was no longer there anymore. It was kind of like learning how a magic trick is done.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's,
it wasn't
no
really-
longer
Since you figured it out.
Fascinating.
fascinating
right.
anymore.
Yeah,
And so
right.
I also like to be very, very hands-on, and it was kind of hard to do with aerospace. So I looked for a major, something that would excite me, and then I switched to software engineering. And then from there, it was just, how does this website work? Let me go build it. And then, I now know how
figured
it
out.
works. How does
Right.
this mobile app work? Let me go build it. And so eventually did a few internships, and then Microsoft came to campus to recruit, and then the rest is history.
Oh, so this was your first job straight out of college?
Yeah, straight out of college.
Oh, wow.
That's
People
big.
don't usually get it that lucky, man.
Yeah,
that's
What-
crazy.
What college was that?
Iowa State University.
Okay.
Iowa.
Okay. So how important are like internships into getting, or is that do you think it's a big part of someone's journey into getting to a company like Microsoft?
Absolutely. So Microsoft itself has a bunch of internships for various levels, right? There's the Explore intern, which is when you're a freshman or a sophomore, and then there's the regular internships for if you're like a sophomore stroke junior where you're working with teams, right? So the second you get your foot in the door that way, it's a lot easier for you to just get a return offer to come
Right.
back as a full-time employee. And it's not, in my case, I didn't intern at Microsoft or any of the big companies, right? I interned at the smaller companies, SPS Commerce in Minneapolis, Rockwell Automation, some department at my university. Basically, anywhere I could write code,
Right.
I just went to go figure out what the code there was doing, right? I just wanted to absorb as much information. And so when Microsoft was then coming to campus, my resume looked like someone who had a ton of experience from
Right,
all these
right.
places, right? And that's typically ultimately what they're looking for at the end of the day. So internships are definitely important because they kind of bridge that gap, and they kind of show the employer that they don't have to hold your hand
Right.
initially, right? Because
Initially.
you already have that experience. Yeah, there will be some onboarding and some ramp up times, but it'll be a lot less for someone who hasn't had any internships at all.
Nice.
So how would you say, how important are platforms like Leetcode? I got some software engineering friends as well, and every time they got interviews coming, they're like, yeah, I'm on Leetcode. I'm knocking out all this stuff. Like, how important is a platform like that?
Yeah, so it's the technical interviewing thing is a very, very interesting part because one of the main reasons why I actually didn't intern at any of the big companies was I kept failing those technical interviews. But part of me was like, I really didn't care, right? Because working at the Google, the big companies was good, but I was having equal opportunity at the smaller companies where I was able to own things, I was able to learn. They were giving me all the opportunity for me to do specific things, right? And so I didn't quite care about Leetcode, but when it was my final year, I realized, okay, you can either start your career here or you can start it here.
there.
And then from here, you can only go higher from there. So I took 1 year. I was only taking like one course and I grinded Leetcode.
Really?
And I actually fell in love with it. Like I really, really love Leetcode now. Like the questions, it's a series of patterns that you get to recognize in the problem, right? So once you've done it long enough, you see that, okay, if I'm getting asked this type of question, there's only maybe 3 or 4 ways to optimally solve it. And I've already seen those 3 or 4 ways. So Leetcode is quite important. Yeah. It sucks because that's not what the actual job is.
Yeah, I was just
right?
going to lead into that.
Yeah.
Does that translate to your day-to-day kind of work?
It does not. That's not. If you write if you write Leetcode style solutions in an actual job, they will almost reject that code. Right? Yeah, because it's just adding extra layer of complexity that is not needed. But it is somewhat important in in showing that you know how to think a certain way. And there are better ways of testing that someone is capable of doing the job than Leetcode. But for now, Leetcode is what we have and what is used. And the question then becomes, do you then say, okay, yeah, I'm not going to grind the Leetcode and just be okay where I'm at? Or are you going to invest however much time it'll take you to just figure out? Because it's one of those things where once you get it, it never goes away. It never goes away.
Yeah, so so it's funny that you talk about this now because like I wish I knew about it last year when I did my Amazon interview, right? Mm-hmm. Because there was a stage on the AWS interview where they told me the code, right? So what I did was I had ChatGPT on a different screen, and I had them on another screen. Yeah. So I put in what they wanted me to do on ChatGPT, and it brought out the code, and I transferred it to the screen where they wanted to do it. So I think they kind of noticed that I did that. Yeah. So like in 2 days, I was like, I got an email like, sorry, we cannot take you.
You play with them.
I
play with them.
I played it, but like it's good for the community to like know about things like Leetcode to help them in their like interviews and stuff like that.
I think another thing with Leetcode and problem solving too, that you just brought up was that the thing is they're looking for the most optimal answer, but they're also trying to see the way you think. Right. Some of these problems are left open-ended because they want you to ask more questions. Right. So it's like stuff that you would do. Well, some of it translates to work, where if they give you a task at work, for example, depending on how your team is, it doesn't have all the information that you need to actually go get the job done. Right. Sometimes you have to go and ask and be like, research. Give me more information, get me more this, get me more that, right? And so with Leetcode and stuff like that, I've had interviews where I did not finish the solution or I didn't come up with the most optimal solution, but I still went to the next round because the way I was thinking about solving the problem was what exactly, right? And so,
So Umar, I'll say if somebody is looking to get into your position or a position like yours, what's the most fastest and efficient way to go through it? I know you mentioned internship, but that might be one. But including the internship, what would be the path for somebody to take to get into it?
So I typically like to emphasize just the idea of doing, right? The idea of showing that you know what you say you know, right? Or, just Odumodu said, show walk-ins.
Put in the work, basically.
It's one thing to put it in, but it's another thing to show it, right? So I think for me personally, when I was interviewing for this job at Microsoft, right, they came to campus. It was like a 15-minute quick interview. Yeah, she was asking me some kind of question. I didn't get it. I was like, yo, I have 15 minutes, man. I'm cooked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm cooked. I'm not getting it. It was like 5 minutes left. And then she then saw something on my resume that mentioned that I was working on this mobile app outside work, right? I was working on stuff outside work, right? Like I have this website, I have this personal project and stuff like that. And so she then asked me about it. And I was like, oh yeah, this is the app. And I took out my phone and I showed her. And then she was like, oh, that's really, really cool. Is the app on the App Store? Can I download it? I said, absolutely, it's there. It's live. Wow. So at that stage in my career, at that level as a student, I had apps on the App Store.
Right.
I was showing working, right? So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is I was also mentoring a freshman as well
Oh, okay.
to work on the mobile app with me. So I was doing one side, he was doing the other side. And then she asked about that, and I told her, yeah, I genuinely enjoy teaching and guiding. And one of Microsoft's core missions, Microsoft's core mission is to empower every person and organization in the world to achieve more. So that just showed that I was very, very in line with the core values of the company. And so the technical interview they gave me, I didn't get it. I smoked it. But just from that perspective of me aligning with their mission and stuff. So with big companies like Microsoft and other companies, right, to get to do what I'm doing or at the scale at which I'm doing it, it's not just about saying that you know how to do it, right? You need to show
Show
you
it.
need to show in like projects that you work on. You need to be doing things that are complicated enough at that level for them to understand that, okay, if you then come in, you're not gonna slow them down,
Right.
because in as much as every company will say, oh yeah, you know, we welcome them,
They don't want you to slow.
they don't want you to, they want you to
want
come in
baggage,
and be able to hold your own, because it's a lot harder for them to then, for you to come in and not work and for them to then let you go than for them to not just hire you at all. That's why they're very strict with that process. So ultimately, just find things in your past or in your experience that kind of align with that role and try to get that in front of the recruiter or the hiring manager.
And I have a follow-up question for that. So basically, with this being said, do you think, like, during the technical interview or showing, like, your history of work you've done and projects you've worked on in an interview, which one do you think holds more weight? Which one do you think holds more power in terms of people deciding that, oh, I want to go with this guy, I want to go with this guy? Because you might fail the technical, but have so much, like, in your resume, so much work to show that, yeah, I can actually do it.
Yep.
That was somebody might be able to do it and pass the technical interview, but has no projects to show.
Yeah.
So it honestly depends. So when I've interviewed for Microsoft, they typically, depends on the role that you're interviewing for, on the level that you're interviewing for as well. If you're well, I was going to say 5960. That's if you're a new grad, fresh in the industry, you may not have that much experience. So the weight is heavily on you passing the technical interview.
Right.
In you showing that you know how, you understand the complexities of these technical interview problems. So the stuff that you will do on the everyday work will be beans. You know what I mean? It will be easy. So that's where that then really, really matters, right? Where you passing the technical interview matters. On the other hand of it, if you're a senior, if you're a principal, right? There's some principals that I've met who don't even write code, right? But their impact is so large across the organization that they don't need to be writing code.
Right.
They're the ones that go and say, hey, we need to move this component here this way, that way you can interface with that. And what they will do is they will then go find people to then implement that, right? So on that level, on that scale, having the experience of having worked on systems that handle 2 billion requests a day, right? Or things at that scale, maybe it would be nice if you do know how to code, but it doesn't hold as much weight as someone who, you know, once you come in immediately, they expect you to just write code right away. Right. So I would say it honestly depends on your level.
Yeah. So you spoke about, like, you know, mentoring someone, right? Do you think that has been a big part of your own self-development as well?
Oh, absolutely. So I co-founded a company called Candor. Candor is short for Candid Conversations That Open Career Doors. So the whole aim of Candor is for people from underrepresented backgrounds to go on there and book calls with people in their dream jobs. So if someone is like, hey, what is it like to be a software engineer at Microsoft? People from underrepresented background may not have those people in their lives, right? So how do we bridge that gap? I'm on Candor as an advisor. I want to give my time back, right? Sorry, I want to give back to the community, but I don't know how to. I can go on, I go on Candor and I just put that I'm available to meet 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times. You can adjust that how you want. And people then book calls with you to ask you questions about anything, right? It could be a 30-minute conversation, an hour conversation, and stuff like that. So Candor. So that experience alone, you know, having built the software, having hired teams to do it, there's a whole aspect to that. But that has taught me a lot from the engineering side. But just from the interfacing with the with people, where you're hearing the problems that they're having, and some of it is stuff that you've experienced in the past, right? Like a lot of times, I remember when I first started my career, I was like, man, the code is working, but I don't know if I'm doing it properly.
Properly, yeah.
Yeah, right. There's always that thing in the back of my head or more. Yeah.
So you should go left, right?
Yeah,
Like-
I go
like-
left, right? You know, I have this code running live in prod.
Yeah.
If it goes wrong, it's my name that is on that last
That's on, yeah,
pull
yeah.
request, right? Am I testing this thing properly and stuff like that? And so over time, you know, you learn that you're at any point in time you're doing the best with the information that you currently have, right? And that's something that a lot of people who are either newer or like a lot of younger people may not understand. So giving back, answering questions that they have, helping them also see and realize that, you know, you can work at these companies too, right? I remember mentoring a bunch of people through Candor, and they all initially start off as, hey, I don't know what to do, but I want to work at my X company, right? And year after year, I'll say, okay, go work on this project, go do this, go do this, go do this. And then every year they come back, they're like, all right, hey, I was able to get this internship here. Oh, absolutely. And then the most recent person who I've now worked with, she just got an internship at Microsoft.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Last year, she was interning at Capital One, I believe. And she said she didn't want to do that internship next year, but she wanted to go to a conference, and Capital One wouldn't allow her to go to that conference because it was during the time of her internship. And she called me, she was like, what should she do? I was like, go to the conference. Capital One is just one company. You don't like it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, just having someone that they can bounce ideas off of. Because if you've never, like, reneged the job offer, for example, to you, if you say no to like a
company like
recruiter,
that.
you're like,
I've had some
everything
opportunity.
don't finish. But the reality is, you know, you have to do what's best for you,
best
right?
for
Because
you,
at the
yeah.
end of the day, the company is going to do what's best for them. So
Exactly.
just being a resource for people like that is something that I really, really enjoy doing.
Yeah, so speaking about Candor, right? Because like to be honest, I think it's the first time like you know you say you're a co-founder, right?
Yeah, I'm a co-founder.
Yeah, because I think the community wants to hear more about it because I think we have a we have a big community right now, and a lot of people are trying to be software like engineers like you.
Yeah.
So is there a place they can find it?
Yeah. Candor.io.
The IO, that's
Yeah,
it.
Candor.io.
Okay.
You go on there. You can sign up as an advisor if you want to give time back to the community.
Oh,
You can sign up as an advisee, completely free.
Okay.
You just go on there, create an account, put your information on there, and people from all over will literally reach out. Right? They will go on there and then they can browse. They can say they want a DevOps engineer who works at Google. You can go on there and just find a DevOps
find
engineer,
somebody.
and you can
wow.
send them
Clean.
a request. And
That's big.
most of the time, they do get back to you because the idea is they want to give back as
Yeah,
well,
that's
right?
the
It's
point,
not like a
yeah.
LinkedIn where you're just
Shooting
your shot.
Yeah,
This
shot,
is
yeah.
places where people have created account and intentionally want to give back.
Help
So
give back.
Wow, that's
on
nice.
the advisor side, you set how many hours you want to give. So rather, how many meetings you want to take in a month,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you're like, oh, this month is busy. I can only do one.
Right.
That's fine. Or you can do 0, right?
Yeah.
Or some months you're like, yo, I can take more stuff, and then you can do 5. So yeah, the whole aim behind Candor is just to bridge that network gap. Because
Okay.
conversations with people really change your life.
Oh yeah,
Right?
true.
You have one
I believe
conversation
so.
with one person, and it just
opens
changes the way you think. Exactly. And so
Perspective, right.
yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
talk about your app a little bit. As far as like development, is this like a one-man shop? You did it top to bottom, or did you hire people? What was the time frame for development, all of that kind of things?
Which of the apps?
Candor.
Candor. So Candor is a very interesting process because when I started by myself, just building it.
Yeah.
I had a product person who was also a co-founder, Christina. She helped design the wireframes and design all of that. And so when I then started building, I was like, oh, okay, this is good, but we need to then do things fast, right? We need to speed things up. So I then went online and I hired a team. And there's so many lessons from there where hiring a team where, you know, I would be up at night trying to do stuff. And then, you know, I didn't know how to interview people at that time.
Right.
So I just hired not the cheapest people, but the people who could do it for the least amount of money.
Yeah.
But they also looked good.
Yeah. I know
So
what you mean,
like,
value.
yeah, value, exactly. I literally got the most value. I was trying to get the most value, but then over time I started realizing that you know, these guys didn't quite know engineering like that.
Right.
They weren't writing tests, right? The one that hit me was they weren't using Git. So there was no source control.
No source control.
Yeah. Initially they wanted to do things in just one environment. So what would happen is they would just deploy it to like one site and then be like, the site is up. I'm like, all right, is this the staging or is this is this staging or is this prod?
Oh, yeah.
They were like, what's that? I was like, one more.
Yeah,
I am in for a long
Like,
time.
wait,
So I then
ask
told
what's
them-
that? I was-
Exactly.
oh,
So I was like,
God.
all right, you have to duplicate this. That way, wherever, if we want to make changes, we want to break something, we can break it in the staging, right? So that production is where things are working, right? And so that whole process was, it was good. At some point in time, we had to let them go because how can you not know how to use Git, right? Git is source control, right? If something breaks and we want to go back to like the latest version, the last version, like
Last version, yeah.
how are we going to do that? Right? So it was a whole interesting process of just learning how to lead, right? I'm an engineer. I love the code. I love being in the weeds of things, but then sometimes you have to let things go and then do all that stuff.
I'm gonna ask one personal question.
Yeah.
As a software engineer, right? What's your relationship with the software security team in terms of like how they want the security incorporated in whatever you're doing? How does that come about? Like how does that feel?
That's interesting. At Microsoft, things are done very, very in a very structured way.
Right.
So whatever code I'm pushing or whatever code any team is pushing, for example, there's already processes that are set in place where even from my corp machine, I can do specific things. So the security team, they kind of lock down certain environments and they kind of already set things in place where the only time I'm working with them is if I did something wrong. Right?
Oh, okay.
But in terms of how the code is written and how we structure specific systems, we definitely take security in mind, right? There's some stuff that I can't talk about because it's like internal Microsoft stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But security is important, but the way Microsoft does it is not just Microsoft. I'm pretty sure any big organization is. Say you try to push a file that has something that it shouldn't have, it won't even let you push that file.
So are those like some like hooks like pre-commit hooks or pre-push hooks, things like that, right?
Exactly. Yes, stuff like that where before you even do a commit, right? It'll scan all the files. If it finds like a certain string that may look like something that shouldn't be there, it just
like a secret or access keys, stuff
access
like that.
keys, stuff like that. Yeah,
that's good because I basically feel like stuff like that, right? Developers don't really think about security. Yeah. So
we just think I want to build this thing. I want to put it out.
Yeah, you just want it to work.
It just work. Yeah.
Exactly.
So like you need people to. So you when we were asking about Candor, you were like which of the apps? Do you have more apps than Candor?
I have Candor. I have a URL shortener, which is just like a simple app where you just go put in a long URL, it just shortens it.
For you.
Like Bitly?
Bitly, yeah. I wanted to figure out how that worked in the back.
I have a problem with Bitly, man. Too many hackers start using that page. Phishing email. So you don't even know what the effective URL is. So you just click and like just alerts going on left, right.
Yeah. So
as an analyst,
that's very
I have a problem with it.
Yeah. I basically wanted to know what the backend for that looked like. So I built my own. And then
cool.
it's just on there. I have an app that transfers music playlists from Spotify to Apple Music. I wanted to switch from Spotify to Apple Music and test it out, but I didn't want to transfer all my playlists manually. So I built a website, like a web app that did that. I think it's called One Music, something like that. I built it a long time ago. I honestly don't know if these things are live. I just get a bill from like Amazon or like AWS, wherever it's deployed every month, like, all this thing. And so I have a mobile app on the App Store called Optil, I believe. Yeah, it's called Optil. And the idea behind it is just to say you have like an event coming up and you want to like either count down or count up to the event. You can just create an event there and then it'll just do that.
Let's do that for you.
What else? I have a few on I created this thing where I have a bunch of them. I just create stuff and I just deploy it.
I mean, the ones that are still working, you probably need to let us know so we can probably list it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. So because like
probably use it ourselves too.
Yeah. There's the sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like because like apps like Candor, I feel like it's gonna be great like great for the communities
absolutely.
because like like I haven't even heard about it. Do you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So like I feel like those kind of apps are meant to be like pushed out
Yeah,
so
for
that people
sure,
can hear about it
sure.
more. And I feel like
Yeah.
there's great value in that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So outside of like work and software engineering and stuff like that, what do you also do? Just,
I'm a coach as well.
okay.
I
Basketball,
do.
soccer.
No. Well, I play a lot of basketball.
Okay,
I
I've seen
play a
your
lot of
videos. That's
stuff.
why I
Yeah.
mentioned.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do. I love basketball.
Okay.
I love playing. I also run. I love being active. I also lift weights. I
Okay.
do a lot of like
Okay.
weightlifting and stuff like that. But what I was gonna say earlier was I wanted to start an academy for people who had learned how to code but are having a hard time landing a job
Not the job, yeah.
because of either soft skills you're missing, resume
Yeah.
stuff that you're missing, and stuff like that. And so I did that, but I eventually found that it was a cohort program where I would have maybe 10 to 15 people at a time for like 6 weeks and then do stuff like that. And then eventually I found that I was giving generic advice
Right.
in that it wasn't tailored to like people's specific use
Yeah.
cases. And so after like a couple of cohorts, I decided to switch to like one-on-one coaching for software engineers.
Okay.
So what I do is you're a software engineer, you either want to land a higher paying job, you want to get better at your current job to get promoted.
Okay.
You want to get better with your technical skills, right? Whatever you want to get better at. And I created a coaching program where we work together one-on-one, right?
Right.
I've worked with people who are like machine learning engineers with over 10, 15 years of experience, but they don't know how to talk about the impact of their work.
Right. Right.
So if you notice, when I was talking about my experience at Microsoft, I didn't tell you one programming language I used because
Yep.
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
right?
matter,
What matters is
yeah.
the impact of your work.
You're just gonna confuse us.
Yeah, right? So how do you then communicate that, right? If
Communicate
you want to
that,
get promoted as software engineer, for example, there's typically three things. You need impact, ownership, and influence.
Okay.
Right.
You need to own something, right?
Yep.
You need to say this thing is my own,
It's yours,
in
yeah.
this thing. You need to make impact with it. You need to move it forward, right?
Yeah.
You need to create actual business value, and you need to influence people that can make the decision for you to get promoted. A lot of people typically don't know that, right? That's why you see people who are doing the work. This guy's been working on this thing for 4 years. He's not doing
It's not
anything
good.
because he's not influencing people and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So essentially, whatever problem you're having as a software engineer, some I can help with. Some I'm like I'm not gonna teach you how to code because you can go learn that online, right? There's so many, resources that can help with that.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, but so I have like one last question for you. So learning how to code, right? Like Python, Java, all that stuff. For someone like me that has tried it in the past and has dropped it because I couldn't go far, like I felt like I didn't have the mental capacity for it. I started Python one time, I dropped it after 2-3 months. I started Java one time, I dropped it after like 6 months or so. So for someone like me that as how can I basically stay in the game? And because I feel like learning to code is like a long game.
It
You
is.
got-
It is,
you
that
gotta
was
you gotta keep
literally
practicing. You
the
gotta keep
first thing,
practicing, keep getting better. So for someone like me that's like dropped it in the past, how do I stay on that course and keep learning and keep practicing and like get to my goal basically?
If you don't ask, why did you drop it? Why did you stop?
Because I felt like at the time it was a lot going on.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying? I was doing cybersecurity like I do now. I was doing a lot of scripting too, and stuff like that. So I kind of lost the interest for it.
Okay.
I feel like I got to a stage for it and it was too complex, and I was like, I don't know.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I think a lot of people, even me, I get into that mindset or that frame where the second something gets hard, I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Just close it. But the reality is, when it gets hard, it's okay to do that. But no, you have to come back to it, right?
Yeah.
It's coming back with fresh mind.
Right.
Coming
Fresh
back with a
mind,
different
yeah.
perspective. I don't know, if you guys have ever been in a scenario like this, but you've been looking at something for 3 hours or more. I can't, for the hell of me, figure out why this thing is not working. You close it, you come back after one day, and the solution is right there in front of you.
That's me every day at work. I'll close it like tomorrow will solve itself.
Exactly. And then tomorrow you come and you
have
figure it out,
an
right?
idea, right?
I think it's the same process with learning, but you have to understand that it's not like it doesn't happen overnight. Right?
Of course,
Even me, like I've built so many things, but I'm still learning so much today, right?
Of course, yeah.
And it's like just take it small, right? One day at a time, right? Like also set realistic pace, right? Set realistic expectations where if you know that you can't do this thing every day, then don't try to do it every day, bro. You understand, right? Like that's just like if you know, like don't try to do it every day if you know realistically, right? You know yourself, right? You can't take it, right? So maybe do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and every day will not look the same, right? Some days you come in and you're like, oh, this thing is flowing, everything is going. The other days it won't. By the end of the day, it's those small progress that then lead to a place where you're like, wow, I actually know this thing, right? And as you're also building, as you're also learning, try to work on something that can show that can kind of gauge your progress, even if it's a simple game. Then because you've then said, okay, I've learned this thing and I've applied it. The application is the most important part. Because otherwise you're just learning. You're just learning. And what people care about, what companies care about is the application. Right? Is the application.
But are there platforms that can take us from like, learning like how to code, then putting in those like applications too as well, like, because I think like the community would like to hear like how you did that for yourself, like, or are there tools out there that can help you do that, like platforms?
I believe there are. I don't know them because the way my brain works is mainly around how I am like things I'm curious about, right? Yeah. Like if I see a mobile app that does this thing, I think, how does it work? And then I go build it.
Yeah.
If you see a simple web application, a tic-tac snake, you start snake now. Go build your own. You understand what I mean? Go build, like, it's rudimentary, it's simple, but it'll teach you so much because you're now applying what you've learned, right? If you think about any time in your history when you've learned anything, it could be maths, it could be calculus, it could be English. When you learned it in class, you went and you did what? Homework. The homework is the application. Right? The homework is the application. But if you keep watching these videos and you're learning, and you could watch a small video of someone doing it and you code along with them. It could take you 2 hours, it could take you 4 days. But at the end of the day, you now know what the code that you're learning can do. You can now relate it to something, because if you're just watching the videos and just consuming, it won't, like you won't find that satisfaction. You won't find that fulfillment. And then from time to time, you then up the complexity of the project each time. Small. Don't start with Facebook. You're not about to do Facebook. You understand?
Yeah.
Start light and then go from there.
Yeah.
So there we have a team. Uma, we have Kembi, we have Ugo. This is this episode now. Thank you.
Yeah, like, follow, subscribe.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Peace.
Thank you.
That was neat.